Hello, everyone. It's John Atkinson once again doing another video on the Circumcision
Okay.
Harms docu-series, and I'm here with Ndumiso. Ndumiso, please introduce yourself and tell us how you got involved with all this.
Okay. I am Ndumiso from South Africa, in Gauteng. I am 28 years old. Basically, my journey started from home. Traditionally, I am Tsonga. The Tsonga tribe is known to come from Limpopo and Mozambique here in South Africa, but I'm from Limpopo. So in our culture, at the age of 14 and above, that's where we are taken to initiation school for circumcision. So in my case, at the age of 14, I went to circumcision. It happened in the mountains. Now, in my case, then an unfortunate event kind of happened. The procedure wasn't done properly. So I still had some foreskin left. I don't know if I said it correct, if I said unfortunately, but fortunately, I still had a bit of foreskin left. And after that, I never really went to the hospital to have it completely removed. So I stayed with it until I was 26. That's when now the problem started. Throughout my entire year, and I can say that I have been sexually active and I've had no problems. And until when I was 26 with my girlfriend, then for some reason we decided that maybe I should just go to the hospital and do and complete the whole procedure. Now, I must say that was the biggest mistake I've ever done, because after that, sex completely changed. That I've noticed the difference between the before and now is what you call it, the gland, the front part of the foreskin. It becomes slightly drier compared to previously. And as time goes on, I realized, yes, that part. I realized that it kind of loses its sensation. Now, the pleasure is no longer as it used to be before. So hence I am actually against circumcision now that I know the before and the after. And I get it, in most cases, people tend to kind of disagree with that. They'll be like, no, maybe if it's done at an early age, it makes no difference. However, I disagree with that. Reason being, I feel, and now that I'm living without it, I'm seeing the need for it. At times you go on just for the sake of having sex, but without even enjoying it.
Yeah.
So hence I am against circumcision.
Okay.
And in my culture, and actually not just my culture, but here in South Africa, it is broadly embraced, and they've made it part of many cultures, except for the Zulu tribe. They are the ones who are known to be against circumcision, but most, they are all for circumcision. So hence, on my side, I completely disagree with that. It doesn't enhance anything, but instead it just ruins everything. The pleasure, the sensation, it's just completely gone.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So when in your culture, when your
That's
boys get cut,
summary of my story.
okay. So in your tribe or in your culture, when boys get cut, I'm assuming that's before they've had sex?
I would say previously that was the case, but now you know that teenagers engage in sex earlier. So you find out that a 14-year-old has already started engaging in sex. But prior to that, that was the case, that they must be circumcised before they started even having sex. So, but now it's no longer the case. So, yeah.
So it sounds like they don't know.
Sorry to cut you.
No.
Also, there's also the process where most of the guys, they go there at the age of 18 and above. So 18-year-olds had already started engaging in sex, but now that stage also, it's more like a transition stage from being a boy to manhood. So yeah. Sorry, and you wanted to ask something.
Yeah. So so in your culture, it's a rite of passage into manhood, whereas mine, I guess we're supposed to be men right out of the womb, or babies. So it sounds like a large percentage of the males that get cut, they've already experienced sex before they get cut. So is it rare for them to admit that it's affected sex?
It is rare, and one of the other things that makes it rare and a bit more difficult for them to speak out is because most of these things are associated with our culture. So now some of these things we were told you can't speak out about them. I must say I'm one of the very few who are actually vocal about this. And because my grandmother, she was the one who was running the initiation school as well. You find hundreds of boys every winter season. They'll be there for initiation. I was opposing that. I was out there saying, no, this will not go on. So most of the gents out there, they are afraid to speak out, or they feel uncomfortable because it seems as if they are not men enough, they can't stand the pain and all that. So it's more of a masculinity thing, this toxic masculinity, so that no, as a man, you cannot speak out about such things. You need to keep it to yourself. And I find that more often than not, they actually tend to pretend as if they were enjoying sex, whereas no, they were not, especially when it involves the act. So they will be pretending as if they're enjoying, whereas they're not. It becomes difficult to enjoy to the fullest. So they tend to keep quiet unless then now it's weekend, we're having drinks, and then somebody's tipsy, and then they start voicing out such things. So yeah.
Need to get the guys drunk more often. So what's the even in my culture where freedom of speech is supposed to be, the rule, instead of the exception. It seems like it's the other way around, but it's so there's risk to speaking out against this. The risk seems to be going down as time goes on. What kind of risk is there to you for speaking out about this?
The only risk that I can say there is now is mostly isolation, because most of the people, they would want to distance myself. They feel as if I'm exposing our cultural secrets out there to the world. And in honest fact, I'm merely advising people that it doesn't really have to go down that way. There's more to manhood other than the foreskin being cut off.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Yeah, my attitude is that the things that you do is more of what makes you a man or a woman or an adult than the state of your genitalia, right? How much of your genitalia you get to eat. In fact, it kind of doesn't make a lot of sense. It's like you're removing manhood to become a man. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me either.
Exactly.
So just I'm betting this question is going to come up with the viewer, so I better ask it real quick before I forget. In South Africa, do females go through female circumcision or katna, or some others call it female genital mutilation?
Yes, they do. They do. So in the initiation school, what happened is, like from where I'm from, the guys stay in the mountain for about 3 months. So from actually now it's initiation season from mid-May, June, July, and first week of August. That's when they'll be coming out. So they are completely in the mountain, isolated. It's just males only. And then the girls, they have their own place, but it's at a home. So they build them like their own hut where they'll be staying in. And yeah, they do their own things outside. I do not have much details when it comes to the female side of things because it is also sacred.
Okay.
But they do go through as well.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I wasn't sure about that with South Africa. It sounds similar to the Xhosa tribe. What goes on as far as being up in the mountains and isolated, but I understand the Xhosa tribe, the men once they've gotten cut. The Xhosa tribe is Xhosa. Are you familiar with that tribe?
SOSA. It's a what?
Xhosa, Xhosa.
Oh, Xhosa. Yeah.
A guy by the name of Thando wrote a book, A Man Who Is Not a Man, and he explains what he went through, which I guess he got he ended up having a serious infection and everything like that. But what I understand with their process is that they are by themselves in a little hut, just totally by themselves for a couple weeks, something like that, after they've been cut, and some of them die.
Yeah, actually, with the Xhosa tribe, they are the last dominant tribe to be practicing this here in South Africa. We know that around December time, that's where they mostly go to initiation, and a whole lot of things happen. A whole lot of things do go wrong. Okay. And even the ministers of traditional affairs have tried to intervene and to introduce the Department of Health to assist with the circumcision, because the procedure, first of all, is unhygienic.
Yeah.
Secondly, it's not practiced by professionals.
Yeah.
You do not. Talking from experience right now, excluding the Xhosa tribe, where I'm from, they would either use a razor blade or a knife.
Yeah.
They would just sharpen the knife.
I've seen a video of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really brutal. And there's like, after just cutting it off, you just walk. Go there. There's stuff that they do, yes. But
yeah.
All I can say is that it's not safe, because a whole lot of things do go wrong. In the 3 months that I was there, I've seen a guy who had to, actually 2 guys who had to be admitted to hospital because they started having serious swelling. Wound was infected because, first of all, there's not proper hygiene. you're not really washing clean.
Yeah.
You are in the mountain. The only thing you have is the shower. Your shower is the waterfalls, the rivers. That's the only shower you have. No soap, no nothing.
Yeah, just water.
No antiseptic, zero. And you need to fetch wood, prepare the fire while in pain.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Boy,
it is
yeah,
really bad.
it sounds like it. Yeah.
Those
But
are the
hey,
untold African cultural stories.
yeah,
Those
but,
are undocumented.
yeah, but this is supposed to make you a man, right?
Yes. I will say though, there is pros to the whole process, except for that part only. There are pros.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
we have similar, things that happen in the United States where they're like called the Boy Scouts or the Cub Scouts, and they'll often go do camping and learn how to tie knots and do various other things to prepare them for adulthood.
Yeah.
And those make sense. I mean, it's educational, right? You're
Yeah.
learning how to do things for yourself, how to survive, and stuff like that. So that's important.
Yeah.
I definitely agree with that one. So, and so this is my little mock penis, right? And it's supposed to be
Yeah.
an intact penis, so it shows how the foreskin unrolls down onto the shaft of the penis. And from what I saw on the video of the Xhosa tribe, or videos, can't remember whether I've watched more than one or if I've just watched the same one multiple times. But I saw how they pull the skin forward and then they just take the knife and slice it, and they slice it in front of the glands, so so you don't end up cutting
Yeah.
the glands itself. That's very different than some of the procedures that are done in the medical hospitals, particularly of babies. But I've seen these for men too, where they stick a bell part down under the glands, and then they cut down here, and it ends up leaving a different part of the skin on the shaft of the penis. So I've seen some.
Yeah.
I've seen some where you can tell there's like two tones of the skin, and then you see the scar line. But that's usually very dark. So
Yeah.
the amount that's here can vary depending on the type of the procedure that was used to do the cut.
Yeah.
So I'll use myself as an example. I was also cut up here. I believe it was done with the clamp, and then that left a large amount of what I call the inner mucosa, because it's a smoother, thinner skin that is the part that's supposed to be
Yeah.
covering the glands. But other men
Mhm.
have a whole lot less because they were cut with a bell method, whether it's the Plastibell or the Gomco Clamp. So it sounds like you had some coverage. Your glands was covered before you decided to go get the follow-up surgery in the hospital.
Yeah. I actually had it both ways. If I wanted to my penis to seem like I'm circumcised, I could just pull it down. It would remain there unless I pull it up. So I had a bit of both, which at that time it was okay because most of the time I just leave it up there. It felt more comfortable as opposed to when it was up. I mean, when it was pulled down. So yeah.
Imagine that, folks. We have a guy that was intact and his glands was covered, and it was more comfortable to have his glands covered. Imagine that. I don't know why that's so hard for some people to believe, but it totally makes sense to me, and I know of several men that have done restoration where they pull their skin forward and over time it stretches, and men that use something called the manhood that keeps the glands covered and moist, and helps keep it smooth, and they say it's more comfortable. So
Okay, I didn't know there's such.
Yeah, have you not heard of
Way,
restoration?
No,
Yeah.
I was actually I think sometime last month we had a chat with this other friend of mine. He actually wanted to go circumcised. I was like, bruh, don't do it. You know, if it was possible, if you insist, and if it was possible, I'd say after they took out your foreskin, please can they bring it back to me and stitch it back on because
man.
I want back my thing.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Wow.
no, I didn't know that there was a restoration procedure.
Yeah.
Probably it's not. It has not been introduced here in South Africa.
Okay. Well, maybe that's a future marketplace for Ron Lowe from TLC Tugger to sell his tool. That's
Yeah.
that's one of the many tools that I know that's available on the market. So
No. Okay.
all right.
No, I
So
didn't know about that.
so when you had the skin covering the glands, the skin itself was sensitive, right? It was sensitive to touch.
Yes.
Yeah.
It
So
is very sensitive.
yeah, a lot of people think of it as just an extra flap of skin. And like, where did you get the idea from? You know, it's like someone's been, you know, I don't know why this lie perpetuates that it's just extra or whatever. It's actually there
You know,
for a reason.
no, it was built for a reason. I was making such an example with the eyelid. I was saying, if you don't believe me, imagine if you had to cut off your eyelid. What happens to the eye?
Yeah.
It obviously gets dry over time, and it's gonna lose its sensitivity. You probably end up getting blind. Same thing with your foreskin. I actually did some comparison right after circumcision. You can even look at the color of the gland. It kind of changes its tone over time. It becomes slightly darker because it's now dry. It's no longer protected as it should.
Yeah.
And then you say it makes no difference. How will it not make any difference if you can even see the changes with your with the naked eye?
Yeah.
Yet you say it makes no difference. It enhances. How is it enhancing? Well, it's becoming drier and drier.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. You know, my attitude is, hey, if you want to try it as an adult, go and get yourself cut. But you know, there's no going back. So you move forward at your own risk, right?
And there was this doctor here in South Africa who was also part of the circumcision campaign. I just forgot the name. After some time, she ended up going on national radio. They used to feature her. She actually admitted saying that, you know what, had I known before, I wouldn't have encouraged anyone to circumcise because not enough research was done on this, saying that circumcision reduces the risk of HIV infection and other transmitted diseases. It's actually not true.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, well, not medically, but logically, the moment you remove the foreskin, that skin that's exposed is extra thin.
Yeah.
What are the chances of getting a cut on the thin skin? They are very high from what I've seen.
Yeah.
At times, just a tiny mistake to get a cut down there, as compared to previously when I still had my foreskin.
Yeah.
So that thing is not only there for to moist the penis, but for protection as well. That's my view, anyway.
Yeah.
That's how I've seen.
Yeah, you were using eyelid, for example. I often use the tongue as an example, and the tongue being a lot like the glands. It's supposed to be inside until you stick it out.
Yeah.
And you know, you're not going to cough your lips to reduce chances of herpes, for example. It's just one example. Or make it easier to clean your teeth. It's just it doesn't make sense because your lips provide purpose. And some people are like, oh, that's completely different because you have all your lips are far more valuable or whatever. They serve function, but this doesn't serve any function. and well, clearly it doesn't. Because most intact men will not.
For me, I feel that the medical institutions, what they should be preaching is proper hygiene for men.
Yeah.
Not circumcision.
Yeah.
Just make sure that you wash properly, clean your underwear. You can pull that thing down.
Yeah.
Clean it with soap. I feel that as guys, we're actually lucky as opposed compared to girls, because I don't think they can put soap in their genital, but we actually can.
Yeah, well, in fact, you're not from what some intact men that I've talked to. It's like you shouldn't even use soap. Harsh soap can cause problems. You just pull back and rinse, just maybe scrub a little bit to remove any maybe excess or whatever. But you just like you were saying, you don't stick a bar of soap inside of the vagina. You don't really need to use soap on this. You just pull back and clean, and it's not that. It's not very hard to do at all. So
it's easy. If you can pop up a can of beer, then you can actually pull up and then wash.
Yeah. Now, one thing that is probably not lost in your culture, since your culture does it when they're older, is when they're babies. That's all attached to the glands and really tight, right? And so you don't pull that back to clean the inside of a baby's penis. So you just clean like it's a finger. It's maybe a little bath or something like that.
Sorry?
Just maybe a little bath or something like that when you're dealing with babies. So you don't.
Oh yeah. No.
Yeah. I mean, it's damaging to pull that.
Yeah, no, we don't do that.
Good.
I think I have a baby girl, so I wouldn't really know how it's to a baby boy, but yeah. Yeah. So basically, that's how it goes. So it does.
Okay. So we were talking a little bit about risk, and you just said that you're left alone or whatever, or you don't participate in society as much when you speak out about this. Does South Africa have rules about freedom of speech?
They do encourage freedom of speech, yes. However, I can say there's limitation of some sort.
Yeah.
Because actually, I'd like to think that it is like that everywhere else in the world. As long as you're not going to implicate other people, especially without having proof of such content that you'll be talking about. So yeah.
That's
now, however, with that freedom of speech, like I said, there will come such consequences, say maybe that as isolation.
Yeah.
Because now you'll be looked in as like you are a traitor. Now you went out there and exposed our secrets, which is supposed to be part of the manhood. It's a manhood secret. So, yeah, I may put it that way.
Yeah.
So you will suffer just that isolation, and then at times they make you feel less of a man when maybe, let's say there's a meeting or something, and then you're trying to raise your reserve, like, no, you're not gonna be part of this. No. But it's not everyone.
Okay. I think of it takes a very strong man to be willing to speak out against something that is so heavily accepted by your culture, by your family and friends and all that.
Yeah. Well, Actually, I must say I'm really, really blessed to have a family like mine. They've been very supportive, and when I said this is not for me, and I do not want this for my younger siblings, they listened. I told them my experience, and the most important question that I asked, I was like, take myself as an example, compare me to my peers, the ones that we went to initiation schools together. Now, what is it that you see that's different from them? Mm-hmm. What is it that they're doing better? Most of them, when they come out of that place, they'll be on drugs, alcohol. The girls, within a few months, will be pregnant. A whole lot of things. They just have this other weird mentality. Most of them are in crime, actually. And then I said, now let's compare. Is that what you want for them?
Yeah.
Obviously not. So if you insist on circumcision, okay, rather let's do it the right way, the medical way, of which I still do not recommend.
Yeah.
I was saying, rather let's let them grow up and have them make their own decision, informed decision, not based on poorly conducted research. I'm part of the research. Now I'm giving out feedback. This is the feedback that I'm giving. Had I known about this, I wouldn't have gone through with it.
Yeah.
So now you have an option. You go ahead, these are the consequences. Yeah. So they know. And I'm glad both of them, they are not circumcised. They chose not to.
Wow, great. So I applaud you for being brave and speaking about this. So I kind of wonder, I don't know if you know your own history or not. There's actually one book, here, this one right here, from Rosemary Romberg, Circumcision, the Painful Dilemma. Rosemary passed away a little over a year ago, but about a year and a half now. But she tries to put together why circumcision started in history in the first place.
I've lost you. I didn't get.
You got me now?
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So did you see the book that I?
Yes, I saw the book.
Okay. All right. So you can read. Someone can read it if they want to. She's done I think that book, Rosemary, she did more research than just about anyone has on genital cutting rituals in the world, and she tries to put together why the practice ever started in the first place. Why it's whether you want to consider it a hazing ritual or a ritual that makes someone an adult or whatever. But so what I wonder is it wanting to test the person to see what kind of pain they can deal with, and or like if you can deal with that pain, then maybe you can deal with other pains as adults. I don't know, just have you asked questions about why the practice started in your culture?
Actually, I have, and from the responses that I got from my late grandfather, I would like to believe that this was a practice that was introduced to I'll stick to South Africa, not the rest of Africa. At least I'm in South Africa. So from what I've gathered, this was introduced to our culture over the years. It's not something that has been practiced. And because if you look at the history of South Africa, I will not refer, I'd rather not refer to the Khois and the San people, but I'll stick to the Nguni tribes, where most of these other cultures descended from. If in the Nguni domain, they do not practice that culture, yet the other, I'll call them subcultures, which descended from that, now they are practicing it. Where did they learn that from? If at the main it's not practiced. Yeah. So over the years, when we got to introduce to the rest of the world, that's how this whole circumcision procedure was introduced, as it is now being sold to us as it's medically recommended and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I feel that's how it was introduced to us. And it became a part of our culture that we've adapted along many, many years ago. But honestly speaking, the reasoning behind it, it's invalid, saying it's an introduction to manhood.
Okay.
And I still remain that you cannot say you are transitioning me from being just a boy to being a man just by cutting off my genital.
Yeah.
What about responsibilities?
Okay. Yeah, the medically recommended.
I think you just froze.
Oh, got me. Do you have me now? Ndumiso? Okay. Can you hear me okay? Ndumiso?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, got you back.
Hello,
Good.
I can hear you.
Yeah, good deal. Okay.
Yes.
All
right.
I wonder if they have Zoom servers in South Africa. So
no, actually do. It's just my connection where I'm at.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you were talking about the medically recommended part. And I think you were talking a little bit about logic too. My logic about the medically recommended reasons, the purported medical reasons, like reducing HIV or whatever, a lot of people are going to have a hard time with us saying that it doesn't reduce HIV. So why? I guess I take a slightly different approach. It's like, okay, so let's just say that it does reduce HIV. Well, we can remove a lot of body parts to reduce chances of ever having issues with that body part, right? But we don't cut off, we don't cut off toes. We don't remove fingernails. We don't remove other body parts. Why are we pushing to remove this body part to reduce chances of something that may never happen? Most men in the world are intact. They keep all their penis, and they often die, and most often die without having any problems with that body part. So, at least let the person grow up and decide for themselves. For example, in the United States, I know that some women choose to have their breasts removed because they have a very high chance of getting breast cancer, particularly if it runs in their family.
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of the time this is done against the person's will. But it sounds like in your culture, at least, you're close to adulthood, and you're you're doing it, but maybe not for the right reasons. You're probably doing it because you're following your culture.
Yes, it is most of the guys who've done it. It's not because it's something that the set and actually thought of doing it with the process specifically. They will isolate you completely. There's a term that they use. They say, "We as in you're a young boy, even at the age of 30, 35, 38, or 40, or even 50. If you're not circumcised, they regard you as a boy."
Yeah, that's sad.
So you see that as much as they will not go do it, but they do not make it easy for you to live amongst that community because you have not done that.
Okay.
Imagine calling a 50-year-old or a 45-year-old saying you're a boy. You cannot tell me anything because you're not circumcised.
Yeah, I'm 51 myself.
So, so you see now, it in other cultures such as the Xhosa, circumcision commands respect. So as a man, to be respected, you need to be circumcised, and not via the hospital, but you need to go to the initiation school and have it done there. Then you're a man.
Okay.
I know they're gonna hunt me down. I'm gonna get even for this.
I again, my measure of being a man is very different than choosing to get part of your body removed, particularly something that is so erogenous and valuable. So just
Yeah,
go ahead.
No, I was saying, also on my side, manhood is it's more than just our genital.
Absolutely.
It's way more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we covered that, that is sensitive skin and it protects the glands. And just like this is showing, it's not just a flap of skin. It's a double fold. It's a fold of skin that unfolds as you pull it down to your penis. You said that you before you got your operation, that you could pull it back and it would stay down there.
Yeah.
And you talked about how it kept your glands moist, and it sounds like you also, because of the way that you were cut, your frenulum, it's got a little line here, the part that would go down and pull up on the on this, it was still there. So that's according to the Sorrells study. I don't know if you ever heard of the Sorrells study. It was done in the United States, but they did these fine touch sensitivity tests to see what parts of the penis were really sensitive versus not so sensitive, and that frenulum area was the most sensitive to light touch.
That okay.
Yeah,
so they're saying that part of the penis is the most sensitive.
Yeah.
Mm.
To light touch. So like if you just touched it lightly, not not like a lot of pressure, but just light touch. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it is sensitive.
Okay. So I'm kind of curious, since you got your second your surgery, since I don't have any skin, it's particularly when I get an erection, it's the skin becomes very tight and it pulls up on my scrotum, the part that holds the testes, the balls. So it pulls my testes up my shaft. So and pulls the scrotum skin up onto my shaft.
Yes, it does that.
Okay. and it would get so tight that it would actually squeeze my testes, and that's particularly when I was younger. That was very uncomfortable. Things have stretched out quite a bit since I'm 51 now, so things get just like
Was that
women's
31 or 51?
I'm 51, 5-1.
Or 31?
Yeah,
5-1.
5-1. I'm 51 years old.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yep.
And when were you circumcised?
I was circumcised as an infant, as a baby.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So when I was in my teens and my 20s, things were even tighter then. The skin was so tight that when I get an erection, and that the testes would pull up and the testes would get squeezed by the pressure
okay.
of the skin, and that'd be very, very uncomfortable. So.
Oh, okay. No, I understand.
Yeah. It seems like that's a fairly rare situation where they get squeezes the testes and it becomes really uncomfortable. But
they probably took out more skin than they should have.
Yeah.
Or they took out all the skin, which they shouldn't have.
Oh, there's cases. there's pictures out there, especially on circumcisionharm.org. You'd see pictures where babies were cut so much there's no shaft skin at all. There, the ball sack, the scrotum is all the way up, like right up underneath the glands. So there's nothing on the shaft at all. So.
And what happens now when it's like that? Especially during an erection.
Yeah, well, for me, it pulls the scrotum up. It doesn't, for me, it's about halfway up my shaft. The scrotum is up halfway up my shaft, and so I only have so much tissue that's, well, feels like the penile shaft skin is supposed to feel like. All right. So I can only imagine how it would feel to have all of it. Another thing that happens is because it's tight.
Supposed to be interviewed, but I'm going to ask you as well.
What's that?
Oh, okay, continue. I'll ask you after.
Okay. So another thing that happened for me, well, it still happens, is that because the skin is tight on the top part of the penis, when I get an erection, it ends up pulling upward because it's so tight right here. It pulls upward on the penis. So it causes a little bit of a bend, and the penis isn't meant to bend. It's supposed to bend naturally. There's a little bit of a natural bend, but it's not supposed to be pulled tight from your skin and making it bend. So it's just like, if you were to take your penis when it's erect and try to bend it like that, it's not comfortable to do so.
Yeah. Okay. So what I wanted to ask you, with since you've been doing all this research, I believe, have you had like maybe confirmed or checked to see if circumcision does affect the size of the penis or not?
There are studies.
When erect.
Yeah, there are studies that have proven that if males were cut as these babies, that when they get older, their penis on average is like a centimeter smaller than those that have not been.
So it doesn't have enough room to stretch.
Yeah. Because that's the thing, that you've got the skin that's on the outside of your penis, and that's mobile skin, and then you have the spongy part that's inside, called the corpus cavernosa. So I compare it to like a balloon that you blow into, and the balloon gets bigger, and then you let the air out, and it gets smaller, right? The corpus cavernosum is where the blood flows that makes your penis grow, and then gets hard and stiff. The corpus cavernosum is still going to try to grow the same size. You're not cutting the corpus cavernosum. You're cutting the outside of the penis. So then the penis tries to become erect, and but then it gets pushed back because the skin is too tight. So then the corpus cavernosum, like for me, I've even because it, again, it happened to me when I was a baby. I believe that my mind has been trained to not create a full reaction. That and that even to a certain extent, sometimes I had to like force myself to not be too excited, because if I get too much of a full erection, it hurts. It's just stretching things too much.
I understand, because the reason I'm also asking this is after circumcision, I've also noticed discomfort when having an erection. So I'll use the remote as the penis. I don't have.
Yeah.
Say this is the part where they made that the incision, the cut.
Okay.
So now, okay, the remote I think is dark.
Yeah.
Maybe my thumb.
Okay.
So now, yeah. So at this point where they made the cut, now when having an erection, even on this day, it's like I've done that in 2017. Yeah, it was. Yeah, okay. 2017. Now, this part, when having an erection, like if it's a full-on erection, it becomes a bit uncomfortable. You get this feeling like you can feel the blood pumping in, but it's like it's squeezed back in. Wow. So could that be where they made the stitching and all that?
Well,
because I've also been comparing.
Yeah.
Before and now.
Yeah.
It doesn't really look the same.
Yeah, definitely not.
Maybe it's all in my head, but it doesn't.
No, I don't think. I'm confident that it's not all in your head. So I have scars on other parts of my body, particularly from an appendectomy where my appendix was removed, and that was done when I was like 19 years old, and that scar has given me discomfort throughout my life. So all scar tissue is not. I don't think there's such a thing as good scar tissue. So it's not natural skin. It's not the skin that you're born with. It's skin that gets created in order to help keep your body together, so you don't bleed out and stuff like that. But it's definitely not the same as before. So particularly getting cut as an adult, I'm certain that having that scar tissue there can't be comfortable one way or another, really. Maybe it'll probably subside as time goes on. It has the scar from my appendix removal has gotten better and better over time, but it's taken, again, I'm 51. That was when I was 19. So it's had a lot of time to integrate into my body, and also I understand that the brain does certain things that kind of makes things easier for you, I guess. So it's like it'll turn off or ignore certain things in your body or on your body after it just gets tired of feeling it.
It becomes normal, a normal part of it.
Yeah. This isn't a correct analogy, but an analogy that is used a lot of the time is the frog in the pot. So you put a frog in a cold pot of water. It's comfortable for the frog. And then you turn up the heat and slowly make the water hotter and hotter. The idea is that the frog doesn't notice the slow changes and eventually cooks to death because it gets too hot and it doesn't think to jump out. That's the idea. So your body gets used to things long enough, and you just kind of, your body just kind of shuts it out and ignores it, your brain.
Yeah.
I guess there's, yeah, if you were to talk to a doctor that deals with skin, I'm going blank on the type of doctor it is, but doctors that are specialized on skin stuff, they might be able to recommend a cream or something to help with that.
Okay.
So I'm kind of curious. You probably have to do some research or ask around for this, but in the United States, one thing that's very common for boys, and this happened to me and some others that I've talked to, it's something called stenosis. And so what that means is that where the urine comes out of your penis, that gets smaller, and it gets smaller because it's kind of like scarring. This is supposed to not be exposed. Your glands is supposed to be like an inside organ. So since it's exposed, the things kind of build up on there and it can cause that to close up. And some men, or boys, have to get surgery to address that because it's built up. For example, for me, I even not only did it close up, and it's still closed up a little bit. It's not as big as a normal intact penis. I ended up getting a little bit of a skin bridge across my meatus, and it would cause me to, when I would urinate, this would spray everywhere. And my grandmother wasn't having it, so she took me into the doctor, and the doctor just took a knife and just cut away the skin bridge. Didn't feel like anything because it's just dead scar tissue, but then I was able to urinate pretty much normally again and not make a mess in the restroom. So, have you heard of that sort of thing in South Africa at all?
No, actually I haven't.
Okay. Yeah, considering that you're getting cut as you're basically an adult by that point, you're fully grown by 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 years old, the chances of that happening are clearly less, and that's maybe it happens to some elderly men. I can't imagine.
Does. And sorry, also it's not only that we're getting cut as adults. There are people who are taking their babies for circumcision, maybe as infants or stuff, medically. They do have those procedures done on infants. Yeah.
Do you know the reason why they're doing that?
Most of them, they're saying for medical reasons. They want to have their babies protected from the onset. By the time they are able to make their own decisions to engage in sexual activities, they're already protected. I know. Yeah. So yeah, that's what they do. Yeah.
Man.
So most of the things, I believe, because of the diversity here in South Africa, we've got a bit of everything. We have a group that still follows the cultural procedure, and a group that follows the Western.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we've got the whole world here.
Yeah. Yeah, this is happening across the world. It's even in the United States, we have lots of people from across the world, are immigrating to the United States. So we even, like, for example, people might think that female circumcision doesn't happen in the United States, but it actually does. It's just more hidden, particularly because it's considered illegal in the United States.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. I thought it only happened here in Africa.
Yeah, there was actually a case in Michigan for a group called the Dawoodi Bora tribe. So, and they only do a little pinprick, take a little bit of blood from that area, from the young girls, but that's it's still considered FGM according to the WHO. So.
Okay.
I don't imagine this happens either. Again, for those that are getting cut as older ages, but it's called it's referred to as skin bridges. So when babies get cut, the glands and the foreskin of the prepuce are adhered to each other. So here's a risk, and you might want to tell this to those that are looking at getting their baby cut when they're in hospitals, is that if they get it cut when they're still babies and that hasn't naturally separated in there, that they might end up with skin bridges later on. So the skin bridges, what happens is because the body is expecting the glands to be covered and protected by the prepuce, what'll happen now, what people are told at the hospital to do to care for it, at least during the first week or so, is they put some ointment like Vaseline on the glands in order to protect from happening. But the caretaker doesn't always do it properly. So when the penis becomes flaccid inside the diaper or whatever as a baby, what is left over of the skin down below might roll up a little bit and touch the glands, right? Might roll over on top of the glands a little bit or whatever. And that's when the body kicks in and says, hey, I can heal this. And it'll start creating scar tissue between the glands and what's left over of the prepuce. And then if it's not taken care of right away, they'll grow up with that and then have these skin bridges that jump from the glands down to the inner mucosa. I've seen cases where men would have to stick Q-tips or whatever inside between their skin bridge to keep it clean, or they would have to go in for a revision to get that removed, so they don't have that that problem anymore. But then they end up with more scar tissue that way.
Oh, okay.
So since when you're getting cut as an adult, since that's already separated and everything, chance of you getting a skin bridge from here to here is pretty much zero.
Yeah. I didn't know about skin bridges as well.
Yeah. There have also been studies for erectile dysfunction, and they found that men that have been circumcised are at I think 4 times higher risk of getting erectile dysfunction. I'm kind of wondering if in South Africa, do you guys have a drug called Viagra?
Yes, we do.
Okay. I
and
wonder.
It's got the traditional Viagra. It's called Impes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you have erectile dysfunction, you will go to the doctor and they'll probably prescribe you Viagra.
No. I think for me, one of the reasons I might not have erectile dysfunction.
Yeah. Well, it usually happens for those that are older, like my age and higher. It does. I've heard of cases where men in 20s and 30s get it, but it's definitely more rare. I think what happens is because things are exposed that aren't supposed to be exposed, as you get older, that becomes less and less sensitive. Therefore, you're not excited as much. But there's also, erectile dysfunction is a function of 2 things. Obviously, there's the physical state of your genitalia, but the biggest sexual organ is your brain. So if maybe there's something going on with your life or whatever that that it helps keep you from becoming excited, and therefore you're like less likely to get an erection.
Yeah. Well, there's impesu here in South Africa. Some do opt for Viagra, but majority, let me say, of majority of the Black South Africans, they still prefer impesu. We find it effective, more effective than Viagra, because again, that's also my personal opinion. I'm not saying that's what's happening, and this is based on what I've seen the adverts with on Twitter, Facebook, everywhere. There's people who are constantly selling Viagra, meaning that there's a market. Otherwise, there wouldn't be so many people selling it if they weren't buyers for that product. So yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, there's another thing that I
actually.
I'm sorry, what's that, Ndumiso? I lost you.
Oh no, I was saying which actually now something maybe. Unfortunately, I'm not really my thing, since cases of circumcision are becoming higher and higher each and every day, as well as the sale of impesu or Viagra. Maybe somebody should research the correlation between the two.
You think?
Because, yeah, I mean, the numbers of males going for circumcision is increasing, and the sales of this product is also increasing.
Yeah, I've heard of people say, well, why take the risk of them getting an STD or whatever later on? Why not just go ahead and cut off that extra skin? Well, my attitude is, well, why take the risk of erectile dysfunction and skin bridges and milah stenosis and affecting their sensation and the function of their penis and all that? Why take those risks? So
while you can just use a condom.
Yeah, exactly. That's far more effective at reducing chances of STIs. And it's really funny because people don't take a second to look. In the United States, in the developed world, we have like the highest rate of STIs, yet most of the men are circumcised. So these studies don't quite fit. And I even read one of the studies, the HIV study that says that it reduces like 60% or whatever, which is a relative figure, but and those studies they have a lot of flaws. So I don't consider them very scientific. So
yeah.
So another thing that is blamed on circumcision is premature ejaculation. A lot of people think, well, you're going to last longer if you have less sensitive skin or less skin that is sensitive on your penis. But not so much true. So like I was explaining earlier via the Sorrells study, that the frenular area is like the most sensitive area. Watch what happens with this when the foreskin or the prepuce is rolled up. It's inside there, right? So it's actually protected and it's not being engaged until the penis becomes erect or when you start having sexual intercourse. So you don't really want that necessarily to show up until the penis is fully inside of the vagina. Because you don't want ejaculation to happen until you're all the way in there. So I mean, this is actually a very good thing to show. Is like if you put your fingers around this and you push it through, you can see how much of the penis is inside of the vagina. by the time everything is retracted. So that's Mother Nature was thinking, you want the penis to be as far in as possible, so the ejaculation, the sperm, gets to the egg. So so that's just something that I put together. I haven't seen an actual study that talks about that in detail or anything, but it makes sense. You can kind of see it right there.
Yeah. So, sorry if I hear you correctly, saying it is suggested that you have an early ejaculation. Chances of an early ejaculation are high when circumcised.
Yeah. I don't
again,
know.
I'll refer to myself. Again, I'll refer back to me.
Okay.
For me, that's not true. It's actually the quite opposite. Because now, you said what you call this? That front part of the
frenulum.
The what?
Frenulum. Frenulum.
Frenulum. Okay, the frenulum. Yeah. Now, after circumcision, since this part of the skin is pulled down a bit downwards, it is mostly stretched out.
Okay.
And I don't think that's how it's supposed to be. So as it gets stretched out, I feel it is also somehow kind of lost its sensitivity. It is still sensitive, but not as it should.
Okay.
So I find myself having sex for longer and not actually ejaculating.
Yeah.
At times I'll enjoy the first few 15 minutes or so. And then after that, I no longer enjoy it because it feels more like work now.
Yeah.
I need to work for me to ejaculate.
Yeah,
so
sorry.
It's actually quite the opposite.
Yeah.
So yeah. For
yeah.
me,
so maybe I should add another
no.
another thing on here called delayed ejaculation. It's people, at least here in the United States, people think of premature ejaculation as a bad thing, but I think that delayed ejaculation can be a problem too, because then it takes longer than it's supposed to. People might say I'm appealing to nature, but I'm appealing to nature. I trust nature more. I think that Mother Nature has figured this thing out well before we have, and that humans are trying to mess with things, trying to play God or whatever. I trust Mother Nature better. So I think that we should just let things be, and if it doesn't last, we don't last as long as maybe our partner wants us to, whatever. Then maybe, hey, as an adult, you can choose to do a little bit of a snippy snip. You can draw your own dotted lines as how much you want to remove or whatever. But it should be an individual choice. It shouldn't be forced on you. It shouldn't be pushed on you. You should be able to set your own rules about your own body.
Yeah.
And then the last physical attribute of this is general botches. And you talked a little bit about some where they get cut the wrong way or whatever, things don't work. And you yourself, it sounds like you were not cut in a good way, and that's why you did the surgery as a follow-up surgery, I guess, as an adult. And that's where you learned how there's a lot of difference between before and after.
Yeah.
And for the viewers, if you want to see some of those botches that often happen, according to lawyer David Llewellyn, these botches happen far more often than people know. You can go out to ARC Law, which is Attorneys for the Rights of the Child. They have several cases, law cases, where things went wrong and lawsuits occurred because of it. And in the United States, I don't know about South Africa, they have a rule. It's called statute of limitations. So if you get a surgery or some sort of medical attention, you only have like 2 years or maybe 3 years or something like that to file a lawsuit against the person that gave you the medical attention, which you don't do.
Okay, no, sir.
Okay.
No, actually, no. I don't know.
You don't know. Okay.
Yeah.
The challenge with that is sometimes you don't recognize the damage that's been done until much later. And this is a very good example of that. Particularly if you got cut as a baby and you have really no idea what the differences are, and if you're not taught this stuff and when you're a teenager, you might be in your 30s like I was before you start recognizing what's been done and what you are missing and what's been lost. So it's way too late for me to file a lawsuit against the person that cut my penis.
Yeah. If they would still be alive.
Yeah. And you talked a little bit. You have you're heterosexual, right? You're straight, and you have a daughter. So have you had conversations with your partner about the effects of the sexual effects of this?
Yes, I have actually. We've talked about this, and actually she had also noticed the difference in how the sex now is. Because now I'll be in for long hours, and it also gets frustrating to my partner as well, because sex is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be
I'm losing it in Ndumiso.
Sex for the whole night, only for me to ejaculate maybe once, more than having fun. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm hearing you now. I think I captured that it takes longer for you to have sex, like you were referring to, and you don't have sex as often. Did I hear that right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Because it's no longer that exciting. That I'll be honest. That excitement is no longer there, because now you need to work twice as hard to have the same sensation that I used to before.
Okay.
So yeah.
One of the things I've often heard is that because circumcised men, they get a lot more friction because they don't have the mobile shaft and they don't have the lubrication that would normally be there on the glands, that they get sore faster. So they can't have sex as many times. So maybe they don't, as an intact man won't last as long, but they can recover faster and then have sex more often.
The recovery part, yes, it's true. We do recover fast, but now, because of the friction, it's easy for me to get scarred as compared to previously. So now we've even introduced lubricant.
Yeah.
Yeah, to make it much more safer for the both of us. because when now we have sex for longer, even my partner would end up becoming dry while she's now reached her orgasm. She's good. She's ready to rest, but I'm not there yet. And obviously she'll end up getting dry. We need to lubricate.
Okay. So you have to go. You have to go to the store and buy some lubricant.
It's part of the grocery list.
Yeah.
It needs to be there every time. It needs to be there all the time.
So I'm curious. In South Africa, are things very capitalistic, where like people buy and sell stuff versus the government to make sure you have everything that you need?
It's a bit of both way. It's a bit of both. We get free condoms. There are free condoms, and in terms of the lubes, we buy them. But I have a gay friend who has told me there's actually a male-only clinic now. I just forgot the name. They get their condoms, their lubes there, and they've also introduced what's this? PrEP. Yeah, PrEP, the pre-exposure prophylaxis, something like that,
PrEP,
for HIV.
Okay.
Yeah. So apparently, I've never been to that clinic, but from what I've heard, they get all of these things for free. Well, for the rest of us, we do get condoms for free at the clinic. If you want to buy your other fancy condoms, you can go and buy, and the lubes, but the condoms and contraceptives for females are free. The circumcision is free, or you can, if you like, you can also go to your own doctor. But pads, sanitary pads are for sale. You never get those for free.
So while it might be free to the individual, these things are being paid for by someone somewhere, right? For example, I know that
taxpayers.
What's that?
I'm saying we are paying for all of those free circumcision. It's taxpayers.
Yeah, exactly. And for those of you that are in the United States, this is something that you should be very, very furious about. There's this program called PEPFAR, PEPFAR. I need to look it up real quick here. PEPFAR. I think I need to Google it. But it's a United States program, President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief. Okay, this is something that our taxpayers are paying for, so you can get circumcision and maybe condoms, stuff like that. Our tax dollars are paying, so you can get them for free, right? Or at least certain areas in Africa. And I also understand that Bill Gates, or the Gates Foundation, is also heavily funding these procedures. So, and since you're having to buy lubrication and something like Viagra or whatever later on in your life, that's also a financial benefit to someone for circumcision. So these financial interests have a lot of at stake to keep this circumcision stuff going. That makes sense.
Okay, you're delayed, and the voice comes in as fast.
Yeah. So basically, what I was saying is that there's a lot of financial moneyed interests in continuing the practice of, or practices of, circumcision.
Yeah, no, it is beneficial to most companies. I mean, circumcise more, buy more lube. Make money.
Yeah, I'm glad to see that there's someone in South Africa that sees it like I do here in the United States.
Yeah, no, that's just how it is.
So if you don't mind, if we could just talk a little bit about the psychological aspects of this. So, we've covered the physical attributes of this. So there's a trauma from getting the cut itself. I've seen videos of young men, young boys. You see in their face that they're definitely distressed by it. But from what I understand, when you're getting cut as as an older boy, to become a man, you're supposed to not show emotion. You're supposed to stand stern and strong and face this like a man or whatever, and not flinch, not react or whatever before you get cut. But it looks to me like, there's definitely trauma happening there when you get part of your penis removed, and there's definitely plenty of arguments, plenty of studies that have been done that shows that there's definitely trauma to a baby when it happens to them, even if they're like very much heavily anesthetized.
Yeah. I do believe that's correct. It does play a part in one's emotional and mental well-being. Again, reason I'm saying this, and I'll also refer back to the traditional method of doing things here. Now, after the circumcision, you are supposed to present yourself a certain way as a man.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to talk about what you went through. You find out that a whole lot of things happened while you were during that procedure. Number one, it is painful. You have to go for weeks or months. You're out there in the wild. Chances are with complete strangers. Not being away from home is stressful on its own.
Yeah.
Besides adding everything else. And to prove that this thing does play a huge role in our mental well-being and emotional well-being, I've noticed that most of the guys that went to circumcise the traditional way, after that, most of them, they're very aggressive. They tend to have aggressive behavior. They are violent towards other males or females. And now that you've mentioned it, it's only now that it's all coming back to compare and be like, I remember so and so. I myself was one of those who actually kind of had this aggressive behavior in me based on that, because it's like it's torture. The pain can be unbearable. And now, as an adult who went to circumcise for the second time, I'll put it that way, I went to circumcise for the second time. Now, looking at like comparing how it was before and now, it can get a bit frustrating. The regrets, knowing what I know now and what I knew then, how it felt then and now, it does kind of get a bit frustrating.
Oh.
And actually, maybe that could be one of the other causes for erectile dysfunction, that stress.
Yeah, like I said.
That pressure as well, because it's all up in the head now.
Yeah.
Because I know how it was before and what it is now.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
it does play a huge role.
Yeah. 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 For example, for myself, sometimes I wish that I was still blissfully ignorant of what I'm missing, because beforehand I didn't know, so my brain wasn't really playing as much of a role in my sexual activity. Now that I know, it's kind of like at the forefront of my mind. It's like I'm missing something down there, so I'm having less fun.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, the brain is the biggest sexual organ. So
Yeah.
and I have often shared this book, Circumcision: The Hidden Trauma. Now, Ronald Goldman, this
Now,
book, Ronald Goldman,
just gonna, yeah.
he the book is primarily done for an American perspective, and from the perspective of infant circumcision. But I think that a lot of what's in here would definitely apply, just like what you're explaining. Is it kind of leads to toxic masculinity, and people will say, well, when it's done to the babies, it's they don't remember, so that's not going to cause toxic masculinity. I disagree. I think that just based on the studies and stuff that are referenced in this book, there's a lot of them.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of other. He refers to a lot of other professionals' work. It's not just his opinion that's in that book. There's a lot of stuff in there. So yeah, I totally can see how it leads to the problems that you're referring to. And I'm curious, in the United States, we often talk about something called PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is that something that has been discussed in South Africa much?
I've never really had any conversation relating to that. They will talk about all the benefits of circumcision that comes with the circumcision, but nothing is that good.
Okay.
It can't be all positive. No. It do have side effects, of which it's a conversation I've never really had anyone talking about. So they will always tell you, no, it's good it increases sexual pleasure. It reduces the rate, the chances of infections and all that. But nobody talks about that post-traumatic stress disorder. I mean, going through surgery on its own, it's stressful.
Yeah.
I, for one, don't like hospital. The last time I was at a hospital was during that procedure. I don't like hospital.
Yeah, same here.
So going there already, it's stressful. Having to get that cut, because they do it while you are like the only they put what's it called, local
anesthetic.
Anesthetic, or something like that.
Yeah.
They only use that. Yeah, you can still hear them talking. You can you can see if you want to. You can see what's being done to you. You're fully aware. And coming out after that, most of the time, we tend to talk about it as a joke. Where else I've realized that now it's actually more like a cry for help. We are voicing out the pain that we went through.
Yeah.
That trauma. And the few days after that procedure has been done to you, painful. You're used to having a normal erection early in the morning. Now, that erection becomes a nightmare to you. Now, even when you're healed, the first few weeks or days, obviously you're still going to be a bit uncomfortable. You're going to be mindful of your erection because you had to control your erection while you still had your stitches. I remember right after my procedure, I had an erection in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
I jumped out of bed, went straight to the bathroom to pour cold water on my pants, trying to have it gone because it was so painful. And even weeks after that, I was very mindful of my erection and had already healed, but I still had this thing that if I have an erection now, it's gonna be painful. So I was very mindful of that.
Yeah.
Which are the downsides nobody tells us about?
Yeah, erection
They
should not
know,
be associated with pain.
yes. So even after the procedure is done, when you think about an erection, the brain goes back to pain, and it takes time as well for you to go back to your normal routine when erection is normal again.
Oh,
So
man.
this thing is like having having a car being involved in a car accident.
Yeah.
You will never be the same ever again. You can recover from that experience, laugh about it, talk about it, but the moment when a car breaks funny, you panic because you've been through that. Same with the circumcision.
Yeah.
Years later, it can kick in that, oh, flip. This is many years ago when I had an erection around this time. It was painful. So that you carry with them, unfortunately, until you die.
Yeah, man.
So nobody told us about that.
Yeah, you're kind of making me thankful that I got cut as a baby because I don't have that. You know, I'm not. I mean, obviously, I don't like my penis, the fact that it's cut, but I'm not like reactive from every time I get an erection. So, yeah.
So that's the other part. And I mean, talk about that PTSD. If you're going to offer to say to the people out there, go circumcised, you're making it free, you're making it available, accessible to almost everybody. Why not also involve counseling where they'll be able to talk about the pros and the cons as well, because you actually have given out all the pros. What about the cons? How do we deal with the procedure after that? So you're saying, let's just chop off your foreskin, chop, and then go out there in the world.
Yeah, they have no reason to give you the cons. Why would they give you the cons? That would prevent them from making their money.
Yeah, it's not
they're getting paid, even though be free to you. They're getting paid to do this procedure. So
yeah. So it's not really a good experience. I'm not gonna lie, and many people will deny or shy away from this, but in actual fact, you cannot be mutilated and then be okay with it after that and say, oh no, I'm gonna live life as normal. It cannot be normal because you're missing a part of your body. You are incomplete. How is that normal?
it's not.
Like that you can even notice that you are no longer as before.
Yeah.
That probably triggers something. And even if you're circumcised as an infant, when you grow up, you meet with your peers, let's say, who are not circumcised. You start comparing. You ask yourself, why am I not like the others? Why am I so different? That on its own, it triggers something.
Yeah.
Already you feel, in a way, you've already isolated yourself from the rest because you're now different.
Yeah.
So that also, I feel, it also forms part of the PTSD.
Do you know what cognitive dissonance means?
Cognitive dissonance, please elaborate.
So cognitive dissonance means that you got like two ideas inside of your head that conflict, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I went through some of this myself when I was discovering this when I was 35 years old and I became a dad, and I was looking at this practice, so this very, very common practice that happens in the United States, where they circumcised baby boys. And my wife was asked, whether we were going to do it or not, and all that. And I had the beliefs, that it was good, that it's all good. There was no cons. And then I started studying, and it's like, oh, there are actually a lot of cons. And as more I studied, the more I found out that that I'm actually negatively affected by all this. But it conflicted inside of my head. It's like, okay, this is very hard to accept, because this is something that, first of all, my parents agreed to do, that it harms me, and that a medical professional, a doctor, supposedly did this to me, and that this is, very commonly accepted. So all those things conflicted with the things that I was learning. So that makes it harder to accept the things I'm learning. So it's like I had to question this, like, prove it to me. So I would actually have to, I even reached out to hundreds of intact men asking them, well, is this true? Is this true? Is this true? And they're like, yes, it's true. Yes, it's true. Yes, it's true. That's how the penis works. That's how, how it's supposed to work. And that is sensitive tissue and all these things. So it sounds to me like you didn't really struggle too much with cognitive dissonance, or am I wrong?
No, I kind of did, but I would like to think I'm a very open-minded person, and I try to take as much of the positive, even on a very bad situation. So when that happened, it was during that time when now I'm starting to notice the difference, and then I'd engage with people, and they're like, oh, okay. So meaning, all along, everything was okay. It's not like there was something wrong with me. But even now, it's not like there's anything wrong with me. I'm just missing a certain part of my body. So I just told myself that instead of stressing over, I just need to adapt to the new normal. So, yeah, that's how it went. I did struggle, but not that much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good for you. I'm impressed by people that get through that cognitive dissonance and question everything, and question what society is doing at large. Here in the United States,
I often say,
what? Go ahead.
I was saying, I often say I went with peer pressure. Now I need to go back and do me the best way I know how.
That's great, man.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah. In the United States, there's been cases of where men have committed suicide over this, or at least in large part. Have you heard of any cases where men have committed suicide over not, or being unhappy about what happened to them?
No, not really. I haven't. Well, sometimes the reason why I haven't is most of these cases, when they do happen, you don't really get much information as probably you would there in the United States. Here, we just hear, oh, somebody committed suicide. He just wasn't happy with what was going on. Nobody looks deeper into the psychological effects that may have led to that person maybe committing suicide. We just say, oh no, he wasn't happy, or he was stressed about something, and then that's it. We leave it like that.
Yeah. They have universities in South Africa, right?
Yeah, we do have.
Do they have classes on psychology?
Yes, we do.
Okay, it'd be interesting to see if any students in the universities take the chance to study the psychological effects of this. just be interesting.
Actually, maybe, because I'm currently at the University of South Africa, doing my BCom there. Maybe I should link you up with the faculty of what's it called? Humanities, I think, where they deal with psychology. Yeah, I think it's humanities.
Okay.
I should just make a note to make an inquiry, and then maybe link you up with them. You can maybe get to ask them if they have tried maybe researching on the effect of circumcision and all that.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. I appreciate
that. Yeah, I'll just send them an email or try to get in contact with the dean.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So some of the other things I've got listed here is children, medical professionals, how they're psychologically affected, parents. This sound, at least for the traditional cutting that goes on, it does sound like it's really a parent. It's not a parent's choice, as they put it here in the United States. It's you're kind of sort of choosing it yourself.
Okay, there goes my line again.
Yeah, you're coming through good for me on this side. Uh-oh.
Hello?
Yeah, okay, you're there. Can you hear me okay?
I didn't get most. Yes, now I can hear you.
Okay, great. You're coming through on my side really good. You referred to how men that are not circumcised are always referred to as boys. So that I would think that would have definitely a psychological effect on them.
Yes.
And then there's psychological effects on advocates for for being intact. I usually refer to advocates for genital autonomy, but it sounds to me like if you're doing it, you're choosing it for tradition, doing it the traditional way as a 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old or older. It's not about genital autonomy anymore because you're choosing it for yourself. But you are still an advocate for staying intact, and I being that you're going against the grain, I kind of have to imagine that has a psychological effect on you. Are there any other advocates or intactivists in South Africa that you've connected with?
Yeah, there are actually. There's this other friend of mine as well. He's also still intact. He's totally against this whole circumcision thing. There are quite a few. Just most of them, they are afraid to be vocal about it and be out there because there's this whole stigma against guys who are intact. They there's a term they're like calling them turtlenecks.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
yeah, turtlenecks and anteaters. Other things are often referred to as, when talking about intact men, as if that's supposed to be like a put down or whatever. But yeah, I like the turtleneck idea because it's like, can you imagine cutting the skin off of the neck of a turtle? I mean,
exactly.
that'd be horrible. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Don't do it to men. So I started up a website called Genital Autonomy Society.org, and there's a map link on there that has pins all across the world. And when you point at the pin, it shows you organizations that are advocating for are advocating against circumcision or other genital surgeries, non-therapeutic genital surgeries. And
Please,
there's only 3 in Africa on that map right now. And of those 3, the only one that would apply to, I think, South Africa is called Intact Africa.
Okay, just a second. Intact Africa.
Yeah. And it links.
Intact.org.za.
What's that?
Is it intact.org.za?
No, Intact Africa is they don't even have a website. It's just a page on Facebook. I don't know if you use Facebook there or not.
Oh, okay. I see. There's the page, the Facebook page. Oh yeah, okay.
And I don't even. I mean, it's not even. It's just a page, so there's not even. It's not like a group where you see a list of people that are part of it. So the reason why I thought of this is, like you were saying, that there are other people that are advocating for remaining intact. I'm just wondering if there was a group or anything like that that is organized in any way, whether it be online or something, of these individuals.
No,
I know you're on. I know you're on Twitter, but yeah, it's often helpful to have groups of people together that all agree and say, hey, yeah, we're all for or against whatever this is. So for instance, like there's it's here, I think, Intact Kenya, or the VMMC project, which I think is also in Kenya, where you can find pictures of groups of people that are holding signs saying, no circumcision. And that the VMMC project is lying to people about it, protecting against HIV and all that stuff. They don't believe it at this point, and it's something that's been pushed on them, or practically even forced on them, and they're not happy about it. So anyway, it's just an idea. If you might want to put something together or whatever.
Yeah. No, I'll work on it. Yeah.
Neat.
I'll definitely see if I can get the guys to at least we'll start off on that existing Facebook group, connect, and maybe have discussions over there and see if this can push momentum.
Okay. I'll give you an example. I created a group on Facebook called, I'll pull it up here again real quick. Circumcised Men Who Complain. And I also created a group called Intact Male Intactivists. And they're both public groups. So what that means is, since they're public groups instead of being private groups, is anyone go look at the group and they can identify who's in the group. And they can see there's, like for example, Intact Male Intactivist has 105 members. So there's 105 men out there that are intact. Well, 104, might subtract me, that speak out for, keeping people intact, not cutting off part of the genitalia. So that's just an example. And there's posts in there that where the members of the group will say things like, or I'll ask a certain question, and and the Intact Male Intactivist will respond and answer those questions. So if there's a question that someone wanted to have asked towards the Intact Male activists, so they can say, yeah, this works this way, or this works that way, or whatever, or I don't have problems keeping my penis clean, stuff like that. It can be posted in this group, and they can answer that question.
Okay, very interesting.
So yeah, so that'd be really cool if there were some men in South Africa that were all part of a group, and people can maybe somehow ask questions, and there could be a discussion that everyone in the world can see.
Yeah. No, I'll actually work on that. We're currently working on cancer awareness. I have an NPO, me and this other friend of mine. Mm-hmm. So we're now working on a breast cancer awareness campaign. So I think our next project should be that. I'll just run this idea past it, and then we'll see how we can push it forward.
Yay.
Yeah. Because I do know for a fact that there's a whole lot of males out there who are uncircumcised and who are comfortable with that, but they are made to feel as if they're not enough.
Yeah.
Of which it's not fair.
Wow.
So I'm definitely sure I can push something, and then just spread the word out there that it's really not necessary for you, for anyone to go through all this.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. The last topic I would like to chat about is relationships. So we covered the physical attributes of this and the psychological attributes to the individuals, and the psychological impacts of others that are in any way linked to these practices. But then there's the relationships between people, and you've referred to how there's you're kind of separated from the clan, from your tribe, from other people, because you speak out about this. And how when people do talk about it, they kind of talk about it, they joke about it or laugh about it or whatever. And I think that is, people do that because they're uncomfortable, right? So laughing about it makes it a little bit easier to talk about it. But underneath it, it's like there's sadness or regret or dissatisfaction or whatever about the practice, and it's often they're like taboo subjects too. I think that we're raised to not talk about sex and even challenge religion and stuff like that. So those are taboo subjects. So we kind of have to laugh about it to avoid being looked at as weird or whatever, I guess.
Yeah. When it comes to relationships as well, or despite the kind of relationship with the romantic one and intimate one with friendships, it is a bit difficult, especially in the rural areas. Lucky for me, I'm here in Johannesburg. It's the capital of South Africa. Here, there's almost everyone, and I can say everyone is minding their own business to a certain extent, and majority it's young people, and some they're actually now more accepting as compared to back in the rural areas. We have 9 provinces. Out of the 9, we've got the Western Cape and Gauteng province, which are the 2 which are, I feel that people are a bit more understanding, where else the rest, it's rural areas mostly. And it's the people there, they're still deeply into cultural practices. So meaning, if for an example, you're in the Eastern Cape and you're uncircumcised at a certain village, you are not a man. So for that person to have even a romantic relationship, it kind of becomes a challenge. Because first thing first, the ladies, they want to know, are you a man? And are you circumcised? You can say, yes, I'm a man. Are you circumcised? The moment you say no, they'll tell you you're not a man. Already problem started.
Yeah.
Chances of you getting in a romantic relationship, they've just dropped down from 100 to 10 to 10.
Yeah.
You find a group of guys you wanna hang out with. It's like, no, I'm a man. I went to initiation school. I'm circumcised, and you're excluded already. So for you making relationship in that manner, it becomes a bit difficult. But again, times are slowly but surely changing. But it's still not enough, and it's not at a faster pace.
Yeah.
They are changing, but it's still slow.
Yeah. Yeah. So when it comes to working relationships, like I don't know if you've gone to work with a team of people to do a job or whatever. I'm kind of curious whether there's like if it affects working relationships between people. Like if you went to work with several other men to do whatever work, whether it's something that would come up and create a problem there.
I do believe it does. However, personally, I've never really went down that road. I've never really had that experience because most of the people that I've worked with, especially the guys, they know that I went to initiation school. So automatically, that respect is there.
Yeah.
However, for someone who hasn't, and I'll be specific again, I'll refer back to a specific tribe.
Mm-hmm.
The Xhosa, the ones that you asked me, XOHOSA.
Yeah.
Now, if it's a group of them, even at school or at work, once they know that, like, they come back from the mountain, from initiation, they know that so and so went through this process. He's now a man, but John didn't go through initiation, so he's not a man. Now we work together.
Yeah.
Already we have this idea that you're not a man. So it kind of becomes difficult to work with such a group of people, especially, let's say if you're one and you're the only one who's excluded. They can try to maintain a level of professionalism, but there will always be that judgment. And you can actually see that because of what you chose not to do, you are kind of excluded from other things.
Yeah.
Let's say it's work functions. Chances of that group of guys engaging with you are very slim.
So I'm curious, how is it supposed to work for those who are getting circumcised as babies? You can't go through the initiation process. You can't go through this as an adult. You
do.
You get cut again? Are you considered not a man if you were cut as a baby but not cut as an adult?
You still need to go through the initiation process. So what they do now, because you no longer have a foreskin, they'll just do a tiny slice.
Oh, okay.
And you on the top skin, the outer part of the same.
It's not the same. It's not the same torture. You're not going through the same torture.
It's actually not the same, but they just do that just so that we know that you're the man. You went under the blade.
Yeah. Okay. To me, it's like you've created a third category of a man, right? So you've got not a man because you're not cut at all. You're a man because you got cut as an adult. You know, you got the full cut. You got the you're your foreskin all removed, and then you got the the third case now, where you were
we just
which
got a slap on the wrist, if I may put it.
Yeah, exactly. That's a
Yeah.
good comparison. Oh my gosh. Okay. So, you know, in the United States, a lot of parents will I don't know why the logic is lost on some people, but a lot of people will be concerned about their child growing up and going through school and being bullied because they're intact. They're, you know, uncircumcised. So I don't imagine that's much of a problem in South Africa, because you're not really supposed to be cut until you're, you know, until you're supposed to become a man, right? So.
Yeah. So that it usually happens in the rural areas now, where especially when they go to high school, towards from grade 10 to grade 12, between those grades, that's where most of the guys go through the initiation process. Now, once a group, let's say in a class of 20, a group of 5 goes through initiation, that group of 5, they are the men now. These are the men of the school. They tend to command, they demand respect.
Oh, I've lost you, Ndumiso. You there?
They command whatever that they want.
Ndumiso?
So everyone else will they'll be bullied. Hello? Can you hear me?
Oh, I totally lost you. Dang it. Okay, you're back. Can you hear me okay? Ndumiso, can you hear me okay? You there?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. So you were saying you're talking about like a group of 5 that went to initiation school, and then they came back and they were able to demand respect, but everything after that,
Hello?
we lost. Are you there?
Yeah. Yes, I'm still here. So I was saying, if in such cases, that group of 5, they tend to be the bosses in the class. So they demand respect. They basically, they are the it guys, if I may put it. And it also goes beyond the school premises. I've seen a case where a single mother was raising a boy child. After initiation school, that man would say, "I'm the man of the house." That's what he would tell his mother. "I'm the man of the house," because he during that process, he came about he came back with this mentality that he's not circumcised he went to the mountain. So he is the man. And the mother must listen to whatever he says. And I'm like, what's wrong with this child? Who chicken? Yet he's the man of the house. He's never paid an electricity bill. Yet he's the man of the house. Just because you got chopped off your foreskin, and then now you're the man of the house. But yeah. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Your video has stopped, but I hear you. Are you there? Are you there?
Yes,
Okay.
I can hear you now.
Got you back now. Good. So my vision for the way to for people to have more respect or appreciation in the world would be based on like things that you do as far as morals and what you know, not what has been done to your body. Does that make sense to you? With that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the fact that you're going to university.
Most definitely it does. And yeah, it does. And like I said, I am an advocate of this. Whenever I'm back at home, I always tell them that circumcision is nothing but just taking off your skin. There's more to being a man than just cutting off the skin and staying in the mountains for months. How many of you out there who have went through this procedure, who've got something to show for it, that, oh, okay, I went off to cut my foreskin and then I stayed in the mountain for 3 months. Therefore, as a result, this is what I've achieved, or this is the kind of a person I've become.
Yeah.
Who's a better being in society than so and so who's intact? Nothing.
Yeah. That would be a good question to ask those that they come back feeling like they're somehow better. I was like, what is it that makes you better other than the lack of your foreskin?
Yeah. Actually, besides the guys here in South Africa who have gone through this the traditional way, but generally out there, because there's this perception out there that if you are circumcised, a circumcised male has more pleasure than an uncircumcised and all that. But as a matter of fact, for those males who are out there who are intact, who said they're not enjoying the same as you who are circumcised? Because you just they go out there and say things without actually getting deeper, having asked the actual people. You can't just take a group of 10 people and say you've conducted the research and say 7 out of 10. There's millions of men out there who are uncircumcised.
Yeah.
What about them?
Yeah, exactly.
Have you asked them? Because I feel that most of these researches are based on a group of people. And again, in my opinion, I feel chances are that group of people, they had medical conditions which required them to circumcise. Obviously, after the procedure, they're going to feel much better than before. But yeah, it is what it is.
It is.
We've been sold this idea, and it's unfortunate that many people have bought it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, once again, Ndumiso, I applaud you for speaking up about this and talking about this, and I've definitely appreciate you doing so. I've pretty much
Anyways,
I've gotten through my list of things to chat about. Unless you have any other thoughts you want to share.
no, that would be all. I think I've shared most of my experiences and my views and opinions. Yeah.
Excellent. Appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
All right.
All
Thanks
right.
again, man. Have
All
a
right.
great day.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Same to you. We'll be in touch. Actually, check the humanities department contact details.
I'll
Check
be
to
looking
them,
forward to
and
hearing.
then I'll get back to you.
Okay, I'll be looking forward to that. Thank you so much.
All right.
Have a
All
good
right.
day.
Thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.